Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday, April 21st meeting of the Monmouth City Council. I will call the meeting to order and ask Pam Dornbush for the roll call, please.
Councillor Carey.
Here.
Councillor Lopez.
Present.
Councillor Oberst.
Here.
Councillor Belts. Here. Councillor Ridgway.
Here.
Mayor Kuntz.
Present.
Councillor McKeel will be joining later online.
And if I could ask you to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, Councillor Lopez. Just a brief note about our agenda this evening. We do have an executive session scheduled. We will have our consent calendar, our public comment section, and then a presentation. And then after that, the council will adjourn into the conference room for an executive session. And I will read the script to that before we go back there. So folks are willing to stay here. We will be making a decision on that issue later in the meeting, but we will be back there for a short period of time before we return to the chambers. And with that, I turn your attention to the consent calendar, which includes the minutes of the April 6th council meeting. If there were any additions or corrections, now's the time to get those out. Otherwise, a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Oberst for the motion and Councillor Belts for the second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All right, thank you. And that does bring us to our public comment time. This time is reserved for the public to comment on items that are not on the agenda. And we have no public hearing. We do have a hearing this evening, considering an adoption of a resolution, but business would take place at that time. So we do have the timer, and when I call your name, if you come up, there is a microphone with a button on the front. Red light means it's on. And our first speaker is Susan Graham.
City Council, so I guess I'm supposed to sit there.
Please be seated, and the tab button on the front of the microphone. Introduce yourself, and a little harder, just press it.
Press again.
Press it. There you go. Now you're on. If you could introduce yourself, please.
So I'm Susan Graham. I'm president of Friends of Community Parks. This is my colleague Dusty Weimer, who is vice president.
Hi.
And as I mentioned, one of our other board members is here tonight, Belle Boisvert, who's also on Independence City Council. We're just here tonight to introduce you to Friends of Community Parks because, you know, you might not have heard about it. And little did you know that we were organized last fall. Am I talking too loud? We were organized last fall to support the parks and recreational areas of both Monmouth and Independence. And so here we are, getting ready to support you. Anyway, the organization came about because, as you probably heard last summer, the City of Independence decided they weren't able to continue funding Independence Days. And so after approaching several organizations and none of them were really interested in taking it on, this group organically formed of people that have been working on Independence Days for many years. And so we created a new nonprofit. We're a grant-making organization. Independence Days is our biggest fundraiser of every year. And so we want to just tell you a little bit about that. Before I go to the next section, though, I did want to say, even though this is my first time at Monmouth City Council, I'm very comfortable because there's so many people I know in this room. Anyway, we are, Friends of Community Parks is definitely, that happens all the time, just ignore it. It's definitely an organization that's formed to support both communities. One little fun fact is in our logo that Rabixi designed for us, it actually says Friends of Community Parks, Independence, and Monmouth, Oregon, because, you know, we thought that we should give it a chance to be first on the list once in a while. But anyway, we have people on the board and also on all of our committees that are from both organizations. Our bylaws state that we're here to serve the parks and recreational areas in Monmouth and Independence, which are defined as the areas in those zip codes. So we actually will potentially be doing grants for space that's in Polk County. We have a lot going on. I feel like we're on a road show. We were at Independence City Council last week and we're at Rotary on Thursday, and this is going to go on because it takes a while to spread the word around here, even though we have had very kind offers from both cities to put information in the newsletters. We'll also have information in 2C1C. We've got social media already going, and so I kindly invite you to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And on our website, friendsofcommunityparks.com. As I mentioned, we're a grant-making organization. So after we get through this first big fundraiser, we are going to be communicating with both cities and trying to learn more about what some of the priorities are for some of the recreational areas. And we hope to be making grants to various places in the communities. We're kind of putting that on hold until we see how much money we are actually able to raise from Independence Days, but based on the budget we have, which is based on a few years, I'm about to run out of time. So I'm so bad at this.
I was just going to say,
Can we just say volunteer?
we'd like to get you on an agenda where you can, where we can have some communication with you rather than this. And also recommend that you attend one of our Parks and Recreation meetings. Councilor Ridgway's the liaison. And
that'd be great. I actually had a call with Pam today and we were talking about getting the parks plan and all of those things so we can familiarize ourselves with what some of your goals are.
Good. We will hear more in the future then. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Dusty didn't even get to say anything.
Thank you guys. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Hit the microphone, turn it off. Thank you.
Thanks.
And Joan Bostrom.
Joan Bostrom, 14920 Ferns Corner Road, Monmouth, Oregon. Also at 10995 Mistletoe Drive, almost on a daily basis. I, as a concerned citizen of Polk County, presume that general state laws apply to HB 2647 unless specifically negated. OR 660-024-0070 UBG adjustments. Large number 1, basically our land swap, blah, blah, blah. If a local government exchanges land inside the UGB for land outside the UGB, the applicable local government must adopt appropriate rural zoning designations for the land removed from the UGB prior to or at the time of adoption of the UGB amendment. I kind of presume that was our LA 2502, but I'm not sure. It got approved at the last meeting of the City Council, contrary to many of the attendees' pleasures. So we go to large number 3 of the OAR 660-024-0070. A local government considering an exchange of land must rely on the land needs analysis that are provided, and there's another provided, and it goes on and on. And we're going to skip down to lowercase small b. I don't understand how a lowercase b, small, comes before a larger capital A, but that's how it's set out by lawyers. So here we are. The land added to the UGB such that the land added is designated, here it is, the large A, for the same residential uses and at the same housing density as the land removed from the UGB. So we have HB 2647 that led the city into the LA 2502, I think it is, where 90 acres were removed from a UGB, and we were adding approximately 70 net acres, which is really over 80 acres. And we were going from single family to mid-level density. And I've been quite confused about this mid-level density. Some places I see 17 units, not houses, units per acre. Other places I've seen 19. I've heard numbers kicked around, everything from as low on the leaving area, maybe 66 dwellings, to on the incoming area, 840 to 1,050 dwellings. Well, units. There has been no real clarity how many units
Joanne,
will be crowded.
your time is up, and I think, as we've said before, all of the further information about that property will come at multiple different hearings. There'll be an annexation process, there will be a development process. So lots more time to do that. We've made a note, you made a note here of the OAR you're referring to, so somebody will review that and get your response.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Lori Lindley.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank you for volunteering for our lovely city here of Monmouth. My name is Lori Lindley, and I reside in Monmouth, Oregon. And I would also like to address not just the council, but the staff with my request. I want to give you all a homework assignment. I want you all to go down to the homeless shelter that's down off of Stadium, behind the stadium, and I want you to take a look around, because I've been doing it a lot lately and I'm not enjoying what I'm seeing. I see several vehicles with, one of them has a tarp in the front parking lot with many, many items and articles strewn around the bottom of the car. At one point there was a gas can, another point there was a ladder. I also walked around the back of the shelter where there's apartments in the back, and I saw tons of garbage in the garbage can area. And then there's a little storage shed back there, and the shed has all kinds of items. The door is open and it's very disorganized and looks like people are taking stuff and throwing it all around. So I want you to take a look down there at the shelter and reflect back when the ribbon cutting occurred several months ago. Is this something that you envisioned our city and West Monmouth having to endure? I've also talked to some neighbors down on West Main Street. 3 a.m. in the morning, they live behind Marcourt Park. 3 a.m. in the morning, a single female who lives right behind that park had to call the police because people were yelling, screaming at the top of their lungs. And she was a woman by herself, and basically it woke her up. So she had to get police involved in that. And there were several altercations. This was last fall. And apparently, I've talked to her recently, the weather's getting nicer, people are outside more, and she said there's an increase of people going to that park again, and she's really concerned about having to deal with that again this summer. And I know she's had a pretty much a relationship with Officer Hamilton, who is no longer with Monmouth Police, but he was the one assigned to that duty to take care of those issues. And there were also several RVs that were parking on the street by the park at that location as well. So this is your chance, City of Monmouth, to nip it in the bud. If you let it go long, it's going to keep happening and it's going to get worse. Please take it seriously. The neighbors are tired of having to look at the mess and tired of having to endure that. I'm really concerned about the kids that live behind there. There was a dog bite incident recently at the shelter, and the dog does not have a rabies vaccination. And there's about, I would say, 8 kids under the age of 10 that live in those apartments behind there. So I'm really concerned about them getting bit by a dog that doesn't have a vaccination and possibly being injured worse than even just a little bite. I've recently also met with DJ Vincent and Matt Smucker, and they were very surprised to hear of our concerns with the mess around the shelter. Thank you for your time, and please, please take it seriously.
Thank you, Lori. David Pastor.
David Pastor, Miss Monmouth, Oregon. I'm helping you with your homework a little bit. I just gave you some pictures. Paul Evans had a town hall recently. He had 2 supporters there. And there's a bunch of us others there too. And one of them asked, starting with this introduction, we all know that Governor Tina Kotek will lose in November. Blah, 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 blah. Surprised me. Representative Evans said solemnly, yes. That's not good news for cities. She seems to be a sugar mama for low-cost housing and other things. But the other things that I want to talk about is the church at the park. They get $4 million a year from the state, our tax money. And as Ms. Lindley just mentioned, it's a stadium, very close, right next to the campus. And it is not a church. They don't have services. And it's not a park. And if it were, you wouldn't want to go into it. I did on April 5th. And I'm going to read you the police report that was in the newspaper about that visit. Bite. A person was bitten on the hand by a 2-year-old dog at a park after putting their hand out for the dog to sniff. Well, I know they protect the identity of businesses, but it wasn't a park. It was in the lobby of the Church of the Park. I was in there with permission, asking questions to find out about their guidelines and rules that they have for the residents of the park. Fortunately, the dog was not rabid, but the dog was not vaccinated and was not licensed. And that is the requirement of the city. I gave you 2 pictures. One of them is the white tarp-covered vehicle that hasn't moved in the 8 months that I've seen that facility opened. And the trash that's there has been there for 2 weeks. And their own policy says this: any items accumulating outside or around the vehicle will be removed. They're not following their own policies. And the other picture, if you can look at it, is in the back, and that's piles of trash. And as Ms. Lindley correctly pointed out, there are apartments back there and very young children. And the one apartment is probably 20 feet from that pile of trash. Now, I have a good friend who is a woman I trust, and she and her 10-year-old daughter just a month ago were on an appointment, and they were early, so they stopped on Stadium right across from that facility. And they waited, and while they were waiting there, they saw a man walk out in the shielding from the cars, pull out a syringe and stick it in his arm. Now, I'd hope to think that he would dispose of it properly, but I don't know that he would. I also met with DJ Vincent and with Mr. Smucker, the pastor that's responsible for this month, and I told them about this. I said that a child could step on that needle and get HIV. And he said, well, we check the grounds every day. And I said, you shouldn't have people there that use drugs, period. It's not safe. So now I've let you know, city councilors, that you need to do something to keep us safe. The law allows you to deny a permit if it's unsafe, and we have evidence that it's not. Thank you very much, and thank you for your service.
Thank you. And that's all we have. That brings us to a presentation this evening from our partners at Polk Community Family Outreach Department. And introduce yourselves
Hello.
once again.
Hi, my name is Nicole Walker-Sumby. I'm one of the Resource Center coordinators at the Polk Community Resource Center here in Monmouth.
And my name is Stephanie Gilbert. I am the program manager for the Polk County Family and Community Outreach Department.
And we're here tonight just to talk a little bit about our continued partnership with specifically the public safety fees that have been assessed and handed off to us. So I think I always want to start by saying how much we appreciate the partnership. And if we had time tonight, if the agenda wasn't so full, I would love to just give you a full presentation on all the amazing work we're doing at the Resource Center, the way that we're supporting community, the way that we're partnering this community. But I also really want to stay focused specifically to this issue tonight. So if you have questions about other things we're doing, let me know. I'd love to come back or chat with y'all about that. Specifically with the public safety fee that's we've been receiving, what I want to report tonight or kind of start with is 3 different things. So the first is that in the last year and a half-ish that we've been receiving these funds, no one has come in our door specifically asking to be reimbursed for $10.55. We have received no one who is needing assistance with just that amount. So I want to start and be really clear about that. The second thing I want to be clear about is that we have worked with our fiscal department and they have made it very clear to us that we are unable to reimburse or not reimburse. We're unable to cut checks for $10.55 due to the cost of the process, not just with our fiscal department, but also with the equitable system that we've created in our department to ensure that there's equal access to funding. It takes staff time to process these requests. And none of that equals good sense for us in cutting small checks. And then finally for us, as we rapidly approach the end of this fiscal year, we cannot continue to collect these dollars just to return. We have determined for our purposes that we are unable to spend through as much of them as we've been receiving, and collecting those dollars and handing them back, or the vast majority of it back, isn't good fiscal practice for us. And so we do need to discontinue this starting July 1st in some capacity. You'll see, I think you all got a copy of this. It's got like a little green piece on it. We have been able to use some of these funds in order to make sure those fees get covered when we are helping out with other assistance funds. Right now, as you can see, we have a balance of 123, and I'll be honest, that isn't updated as of today. We have spent that last little bit. So going into these last April, May, and June, we are completely out of assistance funds for the city of Monmouth. We do have some other funding that we can continue to do our best to assist community members with, but we are officially out of City of Monmouth funds. So I'm happy to chat about ways in which we would love to see if there is a way to utilize the public safety fee funds to serve community members with other needs. But I also understand that the way those were put in place, that's not just a easy discussion. But for us, we would love to be able to access additional dollars to continue to help community members when there are emergencies and concerns about keeping services on. Any questions?
Go ahead. Sort it up.
I just want to make sure I understand.
Yes.
You would like to continue to receive the percentage, the public safety fee percentage, but you need greater flexibility in how you can use that. Am I understanding that right?
Correct.
Correct.
And if we can't do that, because obviously we made it, and we'll be talking about it later, but we made the decision specifically that was for $10.55 per month. If we can't do that, then you can't continue to accept the money to process it for us, for our community.
Correct.
Am I getting that right? Okay,
Yes.
just wanted to make sure I was clear on that. Thank
No,
you.
Correct. Without that flexibility of I think my estimate, which is not on this page, but I think if we go through June, we will have collected about $17,000 and we're going to have spent less than 500. And so for us, that process of cutting that check back, it looks like we're getting income. As you all know, that doesn't look great in an audit. So that doesn't make sense for us to continue doing that. We would love to still be able to continue to additionally serve with more dollars. We are always happy to do that. You can see our budget here on the left of what we're spending on utility assistance. That includes our administrative fee in that, and you can see that. But we could use additional dollars to continue serving for a full year to meet the needs of the Monmouth community.
And I think too, with additional funds, one of the things that we do is $10,000 doesn't go very far. So we try really hard to stretch that as far into the year as we can. So if there were more funds available, there are more households that we could serve. We try really intentionally at the beginning of the year to set a monthly cap or to do, whatever we can to make that money go as far as we can. And we're just seeing an increase in need. People coming in every day. Rent is going up. Groceries are more expensive. And they're having to make really, really hard choices. And we're seeing that in utilities. And then utilities get shut off, and then now their housing voucher is at risk or their lease is at risk. And then we're looking at an eviction notice, and then we're paying a $2,000 bill where if we could have just kept those utilities on, we could have kept them housed. So I think for us, that is really the goal, is to fix those small problems before they become really big problems.
That's something I always say too, is how much we appreciate City of Monmouth. You all are very good about not letting bills get very high. We work with other utility companies that don't have that same philosophy. And while in the short term, that can seem like a benefit, in the long term, oftentimes a utility bill is the first bill for families that becomes difficult to pay. And so when they come in our door with an $80 utility bill and a shutoff notice, that is so much easier to brainstorm solutions, to gather resources, and to assist with, versus when someone comes in with $1,000 or $1,500 behind. That is a hard bill for anyone to pay, especially at a resource center. We also work really hard to leverage these funds. So we are oftentimes combining these funds from the City of Monmouth with other dollars that we have, braiding those together so that we can stretch them as far as we can go.
Councilor Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you very much for the presentation. I know that we've, had a similar presentation from you with maybe a little less detail in the past. I'm going to say one brief general statement, and then I'll save the rest for our work session. But just leading into this, right, looking back at when we passed the resolution that included this fee, the intent was to be able to help people who are struggling in our community. Right. We were instituting a new public safety fee that was necessary for the community's, expected service levels regarding policing and public safety. But we also recognize that was a regressive fee, right? It was a flat fee. Everyone paid it, no matter if you make $100,000 a year or $30,000, it was the same amount. And so we instituted that, that small set aside to help people with their bills, knowing that this was an additional bill that was going to hurt people while things were already stressed. It seems that it is not achieving those goals. The public safety fee, not the other funds, but the public safety fee, it seems that is not achieving that goal. And so as someone who sits here, I'm very interested in hearing from you, someone who knows intimately the details of this work, how we might be able to achieve that goal with this. And I'm looking for any ideas you may have. I know that there are some limits that are currently in place with these funds, but I'm looking for, maybe a pie in the sky wish, or, a middle wish, and something that might be just at least one step in the direction of our prior intent.
I think we've talked a lot about this even today, and really thinking about if there's a way to expand that.
Stephanie, can you just lean forward a little bit closer?
So just really thinking about if there's a way to expand that to meet their entire utility bill need, because nobody's coming to us for $10.55. They're coming to us because they're shut off or they're at risk. I can think of many times where people come in and they have medical equipment or all of these other things, and so their bills are higher generally, and they don't have the ability to pay that. And we're out of the $10,000 that we get from you all every year. And we have this other pot of funding that is sitting here that we can't touch for that need. And that doesn't always feel super great. So I think if there were flexibility for us to move some of that funding into the utility assistance that we're already providing for you all, I think we could help a lot of households in this community.
Mhm. Yeah, more flexibility with how we could spend dollars would be incredibly useful. And yeah, I also can foresee just, again, we love this partnership. It works really well, especially because we're in town.
Mhm.
We're on the trolley line. On shut-off day, we oftentimes have a back and forth between City of Monmouth and the Resource Center. And yeah, just being able to expand what that looks like would be incredibly helpful, and I think would serve our community well.
Follow up, Councilor Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you very much for that insight. Earlier, you mentioned in your presentation that, someone comes in this scenario, right, with an $80 utility bill. I'm curious, is that around the ballpark of what you often see, or when people walk through your doors? I mean, I know what my utilities bill, but when people walk through your doors saying, "Hey, I've got this shut off notice. It's, however many months, 2-3 months, whatever it is." What is that average amount that you're seeing in Monmouth?
I can get you the exact average if you would like, but just off the top of my head, we set a general cap, and we've set this with in coordination with you all and your staff, of $300 is what we generally try to keep under. We rarely ever kind of even get close to exceeding that with shut-off notices or bills from City of Monmouth. I would think on average, we're probably around the 200-ish amount is probably the average that we see, with some coming in much lower than that and some coming in a bit higher. But yeah, that would be my guess. And I can get you, if you would like that exact number, I can work on that and get it to you.
Councilor Carey and then Councilor Belt.
I recall from a previous presentation, perhaps a year ago, you were talking about how this is, how it's delivered and to whom. And as I recall, you can help a person, a family, one time during a fiscal year.
A 12-month period.
12-month period.
Mhm.
Okay. Better yet, more flexibility is good.
Mhm.
So when we're offering this $10 and 25-cent benefit, we can only do that one time in a 12-month period.
Hypothetically, yes, that is how the process would work. But even offering it once is not something our fiscal department is willing to do.
Sure.
So we have on the back end, we have talked about, is there a way to figure out and identify families and reimburse them for a full year at a time? But there is no good way that we have been able to come up with that values our staff time and is a good combination to identify what people should qualify for that, and how do we, not everyone in a certain income bracket may need that. It becomes very quickly a slippery slope of how to identify that. So currently, the way that we utilize the assistance funds falls in line with our other funding that we receive, and we do our best to keep that equitable across the board. I will say our policy is that we assist once every 12 months. And we absolutely understand that there have been occasions where something occurs within that 12-month period. There's a new emergency that has come about, and we do our best to connect people to resources beyond just that once every 12-month moment. And it may not always be funding that we're able to help with, but there are other resources, other community partners that we do try to connect people with. So I just want to be clear, we don't lock people out just because we've helped them before. We do our best to welcome people back in and connect them with additional resources if we can.
One of the things that strikes me about it, and that sort of mimics your testimony or your conversation the last time we talked, is that, we maybe didn't really check out the logistics of this program with you all before we launched it. I think as Councilor Lopez referenced, I mean, it had the best intentions and we had, you know, a focused deal, but I'm not sure that we really knew what we were headed towards as we did that. But thank you for your efforts and thanks for your information today.
And I'll clarify maybe before Councilor Bell. So if someone brings in their utility bill with a shut off notice, that would include the fee. So you
Yes.
can reimburse the utility portion out of the utility and you pay their.
And that is what we
fee.
have been.
That's
Yes,
where,
yes.
that's where this
So-
happens. That's how that's happening.
Yes, you can
Yeah.
see on the right-hand side of the public safety
Right.
fee, we've identified that
Just
we
say,
have
yeah.
reimbursed anytime
About
it's been
40
available.
households.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah.
We do, it doesn't cover every single household because we do cover deposits occasionally. And so then we're not assessing that fee
Sure.
for the deposits. So that's just what
Okay.
it's not.
Councilor Belts.
Counselor Carey asked my question. Thank you.
See, there you go. Anything else for them while they're here? We are going to have a discussion about this later because we are coming up into budget season and we need to let our staff know how we want to handle this going forward. So, Councilor Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Pending how our work session goes later tonight, you know, it's clear to me that that one of the things we have to consider if we move forward at all with this is a deeper conversation with FCO relating to what's possible on their end. Anything that we decide, I mean, we can have all the best intentions in the world, but if it's not possible, and it's not going to happen tonight, but in the future, I would hope that we would make room for that discussion if we go down that path.
All right. Thank you both for coming. Thanks for bringing your team. Always good to see folks
Thank you.
doing great work. All right. At this time, then we will be moving into executive session. And this executive session will be held pursuant to ORS 192-662F, consideration of exempt public records, which allows the council to meet in executive session. Representatives of the news media and designated staff or other persons shall be allowed to attend the executive session, but all other members of the audience will actually, I see Carol is on, Councilor McKeel is on. It looks like.
Yes, I'm here, but you can't see me. At least I've been unmuted. So yes, but I'm here.
All right. Well, then what we're going to do, we will stay in this room, Councilor McKeel, to do our executive session. So we're going to have to ask members of our audience to leave and we'll come find you after we have this discussion, which will be held, although again, represent the news media are specifically directed not to report on deliberations except to state the general subject. And at the end of the executive session, we are going to return to executive session. We can let folks come back into the room because it is anticipated that we will be taking action after this evening. So staying in, we do have our staff, our city recorder, our city finance director, our police chief, city manager, and our city attorney will join us. And we will invite, just we're going to do this.
Privilege, I'd like to get this traded out.
All right. Councilor Carey's going to switch out headsets. And come on up. And come on up. Yep. And Pam has documents. Yes.
Madam Mayor, as we've moved into executive session, could we just add This is Councilor Lopez. Carol, can you hear me?
I'm still here.
Maybe you can. All right.
But can you hear us
Oh,
if we're not on
okay.
the microphones?
Pardon me?
We're gonna see if you can hear us without our mics, Carol.
I can hear you, yes. Well, I can hear you, Cease.
No. Yeah, turn your mic off.
Okay, you can hear me right now. Hang on, because I'm gonna turn off the mic and see if you can hear me.